Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Well, Heather Thompson has realised her dream by transforming her own career, and through her business, The Success Coach, she wants to help other women to do likewise. Heather joins us now to explain why it's never too late to change career and how she can help women to find a new career path. Heather, you spent more than 15 years in the corporate world, and I know that you enjoyed this career. But when did that feeling start to change?
I suppose I loved it until I didn't anymore. And I think what I meant by that is there were so many parts of what I was doing in corporate that I really loved. So by the end, I was leading teams, predominantly around things like customer experience. And I absolutely loved helping people and helping my teams, helping the customers succeed and thrive in their career and in their business. But then I suppose maybe I started to realise that a lot of what I was a lot around kind of freedom and flexibility and innovation, that I just wasn't quite getting enough of that in the environment that I was. And actually the way for me to kind of build my own career around everything that I valued was to set up my own business. So in a lot of ways, I'm continuing to do what I've always done, which is to help businesses succeed and to help individuals, progress in their career. But I'm just kind of coming at it from a slightly different angle now.
And when you realised that you didn't enjoy your work anymore, how did you actually crystallise the idea for the specific type of business that you went on to set up?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's something I actually see a lot of people get a bit stuck with, right? Because maybe you realise you don't know what you're doing, but you're not necessarily sure what to do next. So I suppose my exit out of that world probably started about 3 or 4 years before I actually did. And it was really just having more curiosity and becoming more aware of what it was that I did enjoy. So I did different things like take different courses. I did, some modules in philosophy and psychology. I, did different retreats and just explored anything that sort of piqued my interest. And I just allowed myself to follow some of those whims and just realised I like that, I don't like that, that's interesting. That led me to take, I'd already done some coaching accreditations, but it led me to take some more. And yeah, I think it's about not always worrying about what your final destination is, but just to get started, it's really just about exploring what some of your options are. And the more action you take, the sort of clearer it'll become, I suppose, about what it is that you want to do next. And that's for me, when I was I really wanted to leverage, that 15 years experience that I had. And I had always been someone who would identify as being very driven and very ambitious. So working in that career coaching space made a lot of sense. And I suppose also from my personal experience, I started to see the benefits of me aligning more and more with the type of work that really worked for me.
So when you then decided that you wanted to become a career coach and go out on your own to do so, how did you identify a niche in the market in that space?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I suppose, and I know there's lots of business owners listening to this, and it's the advice, we get all the time is to niche down. And, I get it, because every time we try to talk to everyone, we sort of talk to no one. That said, I suppose, when you think about something like career or business coaching, I know that there's so many people out there at every stage of that could benefit from it. So I think for me, I just became really drawn to the people that I felt I could help the most. And it's generally kind of, women in sort of midway through their career. And because of different things happening in their life, they're sort of realising that their work no longer serves them or they no longer enjoy it. So whether it's coming back off different leaves or whether it's wanting more flexibility to spend time with family. And yeah, I think it was just they were all experiences I could identify with, having wanted even about 10 years ago, wanting to make a career change and not really having the courage to do it. So I think, I leaned into a group of people that I felt like I could really speak to because I'd lived through a lot of what they had been going through.
And what holds people back from your experience?
Fear. 100% fear. And that could be fear of anything. I think financial fear is obviously a huge one. Obviously, if you spend 5, 10, 15 years building a career in a certain sector or industry, that comes with the financial reward of that time and continuity as well. I see a lot of fear around what will other people think, we can become very much our jobs, right? Like we identify with who we've become, whether it's that senior manager or that CEO, whatever it is. So to sort of change that identity, there's a lot of fear about what other people will think of that and what will other people say, particularly maybe if people are pursuing businesses that aren't as mainstream. So I see that a lot with clients I work with that work in the holistic space, for example. So you'll hear them say, oh, people will think I'm crazy or it's maybe a bit mad to do this. So yeah, I think financial fear and that fear of others' opinion, it really holds people back. And maybe the last thing I'd say is that is also some of the limitations we put on ourselves. Like I would hear a lot of people kind of think and feel it's too late, I'm too old, like what's the point? And the thing with time is time passes anyway. And, I believe that it's never too late and you're never too old. And there's so many examples out there in the world of people who've gone back and done amazing things at all ages of their life.
And what are the tools available to overcome all of those fears?
I think one of the most powerful things is just to start off by articulating it, because things sound different when we say them out loud versus when they're banging around in our heads and we're ruminating on it. So I'll often hear people say something like, God, when I say that out loud, or so I think the very process of being able to articulate it and speak to someone, and I think that's where coaches, it's such a great profession, because like my job is to hold a safe, non-judgmental space. So like I would never think that what you want to do is crazy or you're mad to leave that job or, what about that pension? It's a really safe space for people to start to talk about. Well, actually, I know I should be happy with my career. Like I have the big house and the car and the title, but I'm not. And I think, just that process of starting to talk about it can lift a huge weight off people's shoulders.
So once you sit down with a client and you have that conversation, how do you then help them to navigate the process?
I suppose the whole premise of coaching is based off like fundamentally believing that you sort of have the answers within yourself. So it's asking people like a series of questions and then also through a series of different exercises, customized to what they're going through and what's on their mind and maybe the help that they feel that they need, to just try help them understand what's going on and then start to take some action on it. So I think it really starts from asking good questions and then me listening to what people are saying. And even people find it really useful when I say, well, what I hear you saying. So when you start to summarize things back to people, they're like, God, when you say it, Heather, it makes sense. Or, I didn't realize that that's how that was coming across. So I think the process of asking questions and then being in a space where you're starting to hear those answers and then work through them in a sort of systematic way, some sort of structure, and that's the great thing about coaching. Yes, it's a lot of conversation, but there's also a lot of structure there in terms of the exercises I would get people to go through. And specifically when people are trying to make certain types of change, say with job interviews and career change, I actually have very structured packages that bring people through a series of steps, because their journeys, their transformations, and they'll take a series of steps to get to the end result you want.
And for those that are chasing their dream job interviews can often be an intimidating prospect for them, particularly if they haven't been through that process for a while. So Heather, what advice do you have for excelling during an interview?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I see that a lot. And I've had people who, actually it's been 18 years since their last interview. And I think there's a couple of key things that you can, if you do those things, it's always going to improve your chances at an interview. And the first is to be really clear on what your accomplishments are. So what I find is people talk in generalities. I'm able to bring people along. I'm a great communicator. But you're trying to tell a story to that interviewer, and you need to close that gap between what you can do and the fact that they don't know anything about you, and that's through your accomplishments. So if you're talking about being a good communicator, talk about your presentation skills, talk about the podcast that you host, talk about email newsletter, give specific and really quantifiable examples. and make sure you've mined your past experience for all of them. You know, if you spend some time reflecting, you'll be amazed at how many examples are in there. So I think in the interview, if you're answering always with those examples and those really quantifiable examples, that's really going to help you feel confident in the interview, because you know you're talking, like, these are all facts, right? Like, this is all stuff that you've discovered or remembered from your career, and it's going to help the interviewer like build a picture of who you are. And then probably the second piece of advice I would give is, like, figure out what will ground you. So for some people, it might be, you know, doing a recce to the interview location, or if it's online, like making sure that they test all their tech set up, like they have a good place in the house that they know that's not going to be disturbed. So that sort of preparation element can really help people.
It's great advice. And of course, the area of well-being and self-care has never been more important. So how can women improve this aspect of their lives?
The starting point is probably just to have an awareness of where you're at with that in your life right now. And one of the most powerful exercises like I do with clients is there's a concept called the Wheel of Life, and it's basically sort of breaking your life down into maybe like these general kind of 8 segments. So everything from, you know, finance to friendships to family to career. And you're ranking it between like 1 to 10 in terms of how satisfied you are with it at the moment. And just that very exercise and the visual nature of it, like, can really help people see where they're out of whack. So just like you could see, you know, when your tire is flat on your car, you can see where your life is flat on different things if you're rating them really low. So maybe that's a good place to start in terms of what might need a little bit more care in your life. So it could be the friendship sides, like maybe life had got really busy over the last couple of years and you didn't realise that actually you hadn't made much time for your friends. Or it could be on the career side, or it could be on the finances. But yeah, that Wheel of Life, and if any of your listeners just put that into Google, there's so many examples and so many templates out there for free on the internet. But it's a really excellent place to start to figure out what you might need to recalibrate and give more care to in your life.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Heather Thompson, the success coach, and I hope that Heather has inspired some of our female listeners that are looking for a new direction in their lives.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.